Hi, welcome to Morning Musings. I'm Suzanne Joy, and I'm joined by Deborah Leanne. And we're just pop in to talk a little bit about humility and leadership, the shadow of arrogance that pops in. And this is really a week to kind of reflect on sounding your truth.
Yeah, I'd like to start with a little bit of arrogance backstory because I feel like very often we look at that and we're like, oh, I'm not out there boasting. I don't do that. Yet, in my experience, it's one of the words that's part of the reactive tendencies of the leadership circle profile that I work with women on. And interestingly, it's also one of my highest scoring shadows. And it is a way where women protect ourselves, all people protect themselves by hiding behind their intellect. So we will speak from what we know, and it's very one way. And that's how I am defining arrogance. How do you feel? I mean, you had a story about arrogance, Suzanne. You want to share?
I'm trying to remember what I
Your
said.
mother, you and your
Oh, yeah. Well, that's part of my shadow of knowing it all. As a child, I was one of those because I have a connection between my throat and my head. And so I just know things. And so I came into this world kind of just blasting through. And it's not from an arrogant standpoint per se. I would say just a knowingness. But my mom, took it as when I was a child going, you know it all. Why do you think you know it all? I've lived on this planet longer than you. So where are you coming off with all of your energy thinking that you know this? And
and
so it's
it could have
really
still been from this place
right.
versus from an embodied. I mean, you've dropped down and now you own your wisdom, your knowing, your channel of wisdom, what comes through you. Whereas I think very often, especially, and we can compare notes on the corporate days, right? But
Right.
when we're in a patriarchal, hierarchical world, it's so competitive that we need to show up and share. Let me tell you how much I know so that you think I'm credible, so that, you'll want to hire me or promote me or give me this project. Ugh, it is not a way of showing our true selves, of speaking our truth from down below. So show me how, or tell me how you see the relationship between arrogance and leadership.
Well, I think that when we move into true leadership, we're leading from our heart space. It's not something that's happening up here. This is dropping down into what is the most important to us and leading from that heart center. You were starting to see this huge pendulum shift in a lot of conscious creation
Organizations.
of and innovations within businesses that are Shakti leadership, that are moving from this space past the old patriarchy and like moving from that to this very heart-centered, expanded leadership place.
Yeah. And it's redefining leadership, because in the past, it really was an autocratic thing. And there are times where I would trust, if a fireman came in and there was a fire going on, I would trust that he knew where, or she knew where to go to get me to safety. I trust at times that maybe somebody could support something to help to save my life if I can't make that decision in that moment. So there are times where autocratic arrogance, needing to know, having that wisdom is important. It's just the delivery. It's the being of it. And I think that there's a lot of power in owning, oh yeah, there's my arrogance showing up. Now, I want to lead from my truth. I want to speak my truth. I want to be my truth, which does not mean that we have all the answers. And then you found that beautiful quote. Could you please read that again? That was so gorgeous.
Yeah. So when it gets to the Siddhic state of humility, it says, true humility, and this is out of the Gene Keys book by Richard Rudd. True humility arises from the truth that you cannot ever do anything wrong.
And so often as I start the leadership development journey with women, they're like, but I'm not a leader. I don't know how to lead. I don't know. And I said, let's start with what you already do know and start growing your ownership of that. And they just are like, oh, I'm already I mean, it's so funny to see them.
You've led yourself.
Yeah. Or you've led a family, or you've led a committee, and I think that's where that humility, authentic, conscious leadership is where we're moving into. And it's not about knowing all the answers.
No.
And especially if we don't even know what's going to happen. And that's really arrogant, when we think we can predict. I love that. Like, let me tell you, it's going to happen next week and how we'll handle that. I'm like,
No, it just, I think too, it's like keep dropping back into the heart and staying present.
Yeah.
To what is, and then watching the shift as it comes. I mean, yeah, we intuitively get downloads of like, whoa, this might be on the radar, but we clearly don't know exactly what's going to happen, right? Because time is very fluid. Right. We are timeless.
Right.
At the same,
and that trusting that even if I don't have all the answers, no matter what happens, I trust that we'll come up with a collective solution on how to move forward. And if it's an emergency and we need an answer to move quickly through something, that the information will come to me or to whoever's best to lead in that moment. And this is where we need to be willing to step back and go, who has an idea? What's the best way for us to move forward right now? And that's where that deep listening, and we talked a little bit earlier about that feminine way of listening, which is through the heart, of feeling you, feeling me, because that's where we really, we drop into a whole nother level. How did you used to say that?
Yeah, it is dropping into a whole nother level of just being connecting to one another. And that's where the synarchy, I think, happens when we lead from our own truth.
Yeah.
And then the allies come together. And then each person has their truth that is working collectively with the others.
And the synergy.
Build something. Build something new. Yeah.
I love that. And innovation can happen, and the co-creative, pieces happen. The other thing that dawned on me when I was just getting my coffee is humility, this Siddhic state, is really allowing ourselves not to know and to trust in something we can't see. Trust in that the answers will come. I think very often we want to have that certainty. And if anything, what COVID, that whole pandemic experience taught us is that we don't know. We don't know what's going to happen next week. And we don't know how it's going to play out. But we do know that we need to trust this vehicle, this, my intuitive process or my wisdom, that it'll show up when I need it.
Exactly. Right? And one of the other things that he says is this 31st city is rooted in the ancient tradition of the oracle. The oracle is simply a voice box for the divine. So it speaks without being attached or even interested in what it says.
Love that.
So it's direct connect, right?
Yeah.
So
and why are we waiting? We keep waiting to think if we have more information, we'll be ready to do something.
Right.
Oh my. Boy, that's arrogant, isn't it? Versus being humble enough to say, okay, I'm your instrument. I remember that prayer. Do you remember that about being an instrument of peace? Just
Mm,
let me be an instrument of peace. And it's a whole different way. I love when I get to coach in that direction with women because it's like you don't you're already this. But there is something about the power of owning and embodying and embracing the shadow first.
yeah.
And then it allows the rest of it to really rise. And that's where we need to get out of our own way of going, oh, arrogance. That I'm not that. Yeah, you are. Thank you. I so
Thank
love
you.
our times together. And everyone, if you have any questions, we welcome your questions. And if you have something that you specifically would like to hear us chat about on our morning musings, let us know. Until our next time, take care. Bye, babe.
Bye.